Okay, so again, thank you so much for being here. So my name is Sean Hayes. I am a teaching faculty at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee's School of Information Studies. So here's my directory entry, I guess. Not really sure the best way to phrase that. Yeah, not really sure what was going on with my hair that day. I don't think they really gave us much notice. They were going to be taking pictures of us, so that's my excuse. But anyway, we'll move on. So I've been with SOIS for uh, 12 years now. Gosh, 12 years. So before that, I was an assistant archivist at the University of Wyoming's American Heritage Center in Laramie, Wyoming. And I got my MLIS from the University of Pittsburgh in 2009. So I've been involved with archives in one way or another for, gosh, almost 20 years now. I guess 17, 18 years, because I did an internship at Bowling Green State University in an archive before I went to library school. So yeah, it's been a huge part of my life. So I do live here near Milwaukee in Shorewood, just like you can literally throw a rock from Milwaukee into Shorewood. Um, and so the courses that I typically teach in the archives MLIS are our info studies 650 Intro to Archives course, 752 archival outreach, and well, it's now 756 community archives. And my research interests are reflected in those classes. So especially with community archives, I'm really interested in social justice in archives, community participation in archives, how archives influence identity construction, and especially among people in underserved communities. Um, so that's me. The other main instructor in the archives MLIS is Dr. Donald Force. He's been with SOAS for a little bit longer than I have. Um, so we both have a lot of experience with SOAS and working with the MLIS archives program specifically. So he typically teaches information and records management, our arrangement and description course, our preserving information media course, and our advanced appraisal course as well. So his focus is more on records management, information management, and digital archive collections. So between the two of us, he kind of likes to focus on the technical side of archives. I tend to focus on the humanitarian aspect of archives. And I think it's good to have those complementary perspectives in an archives program because we both come from different areas of expertise and we're both kind of experts in different arenas of archiving, so to speak. And I think that the fact that two people with pretty different interests and research focuses can work within an archive program really focuses on the multidisciplinary characteristics of archives. So people typically tend to think of archives as being about history and historical records, and usually like paper records. There are definitely some stereotypes out there. Usually dust is involved somehow. Every time I read an article in the New York Times about archives, it always talks about dust, and I'm like, come on, just like lay off the dust, okay? But archives are a lot more diverse and a lot more, dare I say, interesting than people outside of the profession or outside of learning about the profession might expect. So archives are ultimately about access. So we're about providing access to records, and typically people associate that with preserving records, right? Preserving them to make them accessible into the future. And that's true, but as I touched on, there are a lot of technological components to archives as well. So increasingly, archives are involved with digital preservation. So using hardware and software to preserve digital records, since so many of the records that are created today are in a digital format. AI is becoming more of a presence in archives. So that's kind of a newer technical area for archives to explore, but I'm kind of seeing that crop up in different publications and different articles out there. So that will become an increasingly part of the archive profession as well. So yeah, there's a technical side, and then there's the sort of humanities side of archives as well. So a big interest in the archives profession right now is social justice, helping sort of right the wrongs in society and also right some of the wrongs that archivists have contributed in the past as far as um, not selecting and preserving the records of particular people or particular groups of people, speaking on behalf of people and not allowing them to have a say in how their records are described and interpreted. So a lot of not great things archives have kind of contributed to in the past, and now archivists are more aware of that, especially like the younger crop of archivists. And there's definitely an effort to kind of fix things that archivists have contributed to in the past. So there's definitely a lot of ethical components to archives as well. So certainly issues like privacy, certainly issues of making sure that you're representing people as thoroughly and fairly as possible. Um, again, incorporating their perspectives into how things are described and preserved. So, there are definitely a lot of dimensions to the archives profession that people might not be aware of sort of at first blush. And I think that's why, having been involved with archives in one way or another for, again, almost 20 years now, which seems insane, I'm still just so interested in archives. And I love learning about archives. I love teaching about archives, just because it's such like a deep and broad and I think really important profession. And every time I update my classes or, tackle new topics, it just reveals like another dimension to me of archiving that I can to share with my students, and I really enjoy that. So some people come into the program with a an understanding of what archives are. Maybe they've done research in archives before, or maybe they have even worked in archives before. Some people come into the program with no experience with archives at all, and that's perfectly fine. We're a program that kind of takes an approach to where we just assume that all of our students haven't really worked in archives at all, and we try and lift people up from that level to being ready to go out into the job market and succeeding as professionals. Okay, but before a student can go out and throw themselves onto the job market, of course, they have to graduate with their MLIS first. So what I'll do for the next little bit is I'll talk about the curriculum that MLIS students and archive students in specific need to navigate through in order to graduate. And then I'll wrap things up by talking about some keys to success that I've found that have helped students graduate more prepared to succeed on the job market. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'll first start by talking about the MLIS overall. So first of all, the whole program can be completed online, and that's true for the Archives MLIS as well. So you can complete the program without ever setting foot in Milwaukee, as lovely as it is here. Again, I've lived here for 12 years now, and I'm just so happy and grateful to live in Milwaukee, but you don't necessarily have to come and enjoy Milwaukee in all of its splendor in order to complete this program. We have been doing online classes for a long time now. Our school was one of the first adopters of online teaching. So it's something that we've kind of perfected over the years, and it's something that we continue to offer to this day. All right. I won't speak about admissions too much. That's kind of beyond my my pay grade. But if you do have any admissions questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I can help direct you in the right place. But I am a little bit more qualified, at least, to talk about the program requirements and the curriculum overall. Okay. So for your MLIS, you are typically required to complete 36 graduate credits, of which 30 must be completed in library and information science. So what's nice about this is it gives you 6 credit hours that you can play with and take courses that might be outside of the School of Information Studies. So it could be like a history course, or a computer science course, or whatever you think will help you with your professional goals. So you have a little bit of wiggle room already, and a little bit of freedom to kind of pursue your own path a little bit. All right. I will say that if you already have a master's degree or a doctorate in a field other than library and information science, you only need to complete 30 credits in order to receive your MLIS. So you get a 6 credit reduction for your past educational achievements. You do have 7 years to complete your MLIS after your initial enrollment. I would say students typically finish it within 2.5 years. So usually they don't need the whole 7 years, but sometimes life happens, and we like to give students a nice long runway for completing their MLIS, within that 7-year period. And you have just a little bit less time if you are pursuing the 30 credit hour program. All right. Okay, so there are some required courses that every MLIS student is required to take. So you have your 501, so Foundations of Library and Information Science, 511, Organization of Information, 571, Information Access and Retrieval, and 799, Research Methods and Information Studies. And you have to get a B or better in all those courses in order to graduate. So every MLIS student will take all 4 of these courses. It's not negotiable. You have to do it. And you have to do reasonably well in order to receive your MLIS. So just kind of keep that in mind. So that eats up, let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12 of your 36 credit hours. Okay. So that's already, a fair amount of your MLIS that goes towards these 4 required courses. We do have an MLIS 2-year course plan here, which I won't look at, but if you're just interested in more details about what that might look like, there's definitely a resource that we can connect you to. Okay. So again, this is for your overall MLIS. So kind of the TLDR here is 36 graduate credits typically, and then 12 of those come through these 4 required courses, B or better. Okay. All right, so that's for your overall MLIS. So within the MLIS, we have transcript designated concentrations. So we have our archives concentration, which I'll talk about here in just a second. We have information organization, information technology, public library, and school library media, school librarianship concentration. And then we also have some MLIS coordinated programs as well, in which you take your MLIS and you also pursue an additional other master's degree at the same time. So in things like anthropology, English, geography. History is probably the one where we see the most overlap, probably understandably, but we do get a handful of students who are pursuing an MA in women's and gender study also. Those are probably our 2 biggest ones. Sometimes English, maybe occasionally art history, but I would say history is definitely our big coordinated program with the archives MLIS for sure. Okay, so that's an option too if you really enjoy going to school and you want to go after 2 master's degrees at the same time. Then we do have these coordinated programs that you can pursue. Okay, I won't talk about those too much because I want to jump right into it. You're probably here mostly to learn about, which is our archives MLIS. So again, this is a specific sort of brand or manifestation of our MLIS program. And again, can be completed completely online. We actually don't offer on-site courses for our archives MLIS at this point, especially after COVID. So much of our enrollment shifted online that it didn't really become economical for us to continue to offer on-site courses. So at this point, it's all online. Okay, so again, I won't talk about admissions too much. Again, I can help you explore that a little bit if you want to. I'll mostly focus on the curriculum for the Archives MLIS. And as you can see here, the courses are broken down into a few different categories. So we have introduction course, foundation courses, and elective courses. Okay, so I'll start at the beginning and talk about your introduction course. So this is the only required course that every Archives MLIS student has to take. So if you want your Archives MLIS, you need to take Information Studies 650, and you need to get a B or better in this course, okay? So it's kind of like an additional required course, but only for Archives MLIS students. So this course is basically a week-by-week examination of different aspects of archival administration. So the first week we talk about what is an archive, the next week about what records are, and then we kind of get a little more specific in the following weeks by talking about things like appraisal and arrangement description and preservation. And then we wrap things up towards the end of the semester by talking about things that are a little more abstract, like social justice in archives, personal archives, community archives. So this course is very much meant to provide someone, again, who has maybe never worked in an archive or never visited an archive in their life with an overview of the archival profession. So very, very oriented towards beginners to archives. And then we have our foundational courses. So I touched on these a little bit before. So Information Studies 750, 752, 753, and 855. So every Archives MLIS student is required to take at least 2 of these courses. So at least 6 credit hours of your Archives MLIS must come from this sort of bucket or category of 4 courses, all right? But you can choose which ones you want to pursue. So if you take Intro to Archives and you think, wow, I'm really interested in appraisal, you can take 855. If you think I'm really interested in the preservation side of things, you can choose to take 753, or so on and so forth. So here you have a fair amount of freedom as far as you take at least 2 of these courses. The reason that we did this is because we consider the content in these courses to be foundational for the archives profession. So this is content that everyone who is going to be an archivist needs to be at least somewhat aware of. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. And then underneath that, we have what we call our elective courses. So these are courses that are still related to archives, but they don't have the same level of foundational archival knowledge that our more traditional courses offer. So things like information and records management, things like metadata, which is kind of a specialty related to preserving information media, digital libraries, which is probably mostly connected with arrangement and description in archives. So kind of more specific information about archives. So you can take a maximum of 6 credit hours from this bucket of courses. So typically up to 2 of these courses can count towards your Archives MLIS. But again, you can choose which courses you want to take. There's nothing required that you have to take beyond our Intro to Archives course, which I talked about earlier. So again, you have a fair amount of flexibility to kind of pursue your interests and where your interests lie in the archival profession. So if you're really interested again in preservation, you might think about taking metadata. You might think about taking technology issues in archives, just to kind of elaborate on that interest that you have. So Yeah, overall, Dr. Force and I have designed the MLIS in a way that has some structure to it and does involve you again getting this foundational knowledge, but as I touched on, can be fairly flexible as well. So you can choose your own adventure a little bit again beyond taking 650. So I really feel like it's a good balance between being prescriptive and allowing you to sort of pursue your own interests and choose your own adventure a little bit. Okay, so Dr. Force and I are always looking at ways to update the curriculum to help students be more competitive on the job market. For example, Dr. Force did some research into postings for archives jobs, and we saw that there was more of a demand for people with experience working in databases. So we're in the process of adding information studies 410 to our elective courses. And so that is a database information retrieval course. Again, just to try and make sure that the courses that we're offering students as much as possible are going to allow them to go into a job interview and say, yes, I have some experience working with this or some experience learning about this. So, we want to graduate students that are going to be competitive in the job market. And so that's sort of reflected in how we constantly look at our curriculum and just kind of see how well we feel it meets what people in the archives profession are asked to do. So it's kind of like a constant evolution. But I think that's a good thing because the archives profession changes somewhat rapidly, and we just want to make sure that the education we're offering to students sort of evolves along with the profession as a whole. Related to this idea of graduating students that have a good chance of being successful in the job market, all of these foundational courses, and actually 650 as well, have some kind of experiential learning aspect to them. So for example, in my archival outreach course, as a part of the course, students create a digital exhibit using a program called Story Maps. Okay, I know Dr. Force in his arrangement, description, and archives course has students create a finding aid, which is something that is a part of arrangement, description, and archives. In my Info Studies 650 course, I have students do an exercise where they appraise records and talk about why they would bring some records into the archive and not others. So again, we really want students to graduate from our program with experience doing things that they'll be expected to do as a profession and that they should be prepared to talk about when they go in for a job interview. Okay, one other thing that I'll touch on is an elective course here, which is called Info Studies 759, which is our fieldwork course. And so this is a course where students go to an archive and they work in an archive for anywhere between 50 and 150 hours over a semester. And that has a lot of benefits, and I'll touch on those later on. But it is one of the elective courses that we really encourage students to take when they can. And again, I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. So we are in the process of establishing program learning objectives, again, to kind of further shape our curricular discussions. So just sort of overall goals of what we want students to get out of our program. And of course, those will correspond with the overall goals for the MLIS. And we actually do have a board of advisors that we are working on to develop those program learning objectives. And those, the board of advisors also touches on and contributes to discussions about the shape of our courses as well. So just to kind of get that outside perspective to make sure that we really are meeting the needs of the profession and that, again, we're graduating students that are hopefully going to be as successful as possible. Okay, so that's my brief overview of the curriculum. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know in the chat, or if you feel free to email me. We have a lot of great advisors here at SOAS that can help you kind of along the path. as you move through your degree. So they're definitely a great resource as well. But I'll wrap things up by talking about some different keys to success that I have observed over the years. So students that do these things are typically find it a little bit easier to find a job when they graduate. So just a few little hints that I'll offer you as you either you begin your MLIS, as you begin your archives MLIS potentially, or if you're kind of thinking about applying to the program or not, whatever the case may be, it's just helpful to kind of keep these things in mind, really, wherever you end up going to school, or as you continue through your profession. All right. So the first key to success that I will suggest is something that I've already talked about, which is the courses that you take. So if you take 650 and you have a pretty good idea of which part of archiving you want to get into, or which aspect of archiving you want to get into, then that should really influence the courses that you take for the rest of your archives MLIS. So again, if you think you're interested in preservation, then you'll probably want to take preserving information media and some of our elective courses that sort of relate to that interest, right? So just kind of having a nice sort of flow between your interests and what aspect of archiving you want to get into, and also the courses that you take. And that way, if you go to interview for an archives position that's focused on preservation, you can say, well, I know about this and this and this, and I've done this and this and this in my classes, and your academic experience will match pretty well with the type of archives job that you're interviewing for or that you're trying to get in the future. Okay, and I also talked about those experiential learning opportunities as well. So just kind of having opportunities to do things in your classes that you might be asked to do as a professional, and then you can kind of talk about that in an interview and maybe set yourself apart from other people who are also applying for the same job. Okay. So my first clue or hint is, yeah, just think about the courses that you take, and hopefully they will match your professional ambitions. All right. My second clue or my second tip is professional engagement. So there are a lot of professional archival organizations out there. So every region of the country has one. So here in the Midwest, we have the Midwest Archives Conference. There's the Society of Southwest Archivists. There's the Conference of Intermountain Archivists. So there's one for New England. There's one for the Southeast. So that's really helpful because anywhere you live, there's an opportunity for you to join these different organizations. They usually have a discounted rate for students and start getting involved with those organizations. So it could be things like getting involved with sections or roundtables related to a specific aspect of archiving. It could be getting involved with different committees. For an example, I've been on a couple of local arrangement committees. So if there's a conference coming to a city that is where your archival organization is, you can help sort of prepare things and develop events and other things for people to enjoy, while they're in town. So this can be a really great way to learn more about the profession, especially if you're involved in a roundtable that relates to an area that you're interested in. So it could be a roundtable about archives for Indigenous tribes or Indigenous Americans. It could be a roundtable about a specific part of preservation. Whatever the case may be, getting involved with these roundtables and these sections can just be a great way to learn more about what you want to do in the future. And then again, you can talk about that in an interview and kind of set yourself apart with the breadth of your knowledge. Another great thing is the networking opportunities. So you'll meet archivists, likely in your area, and those people might be in the position to hire you in the future, or they might know someone who could potentially hire you in the future. The archival profession is pretty small, so most people know most other people, and so anytime you can network and kind of set yourself apart and meet different people, that's usually a good thing to help you get your foot in the door a little bit. So between the knowledge that you gain about archiving and the network opportunities that you have, getting involved with these professional organizations can be a really beneficial thing for your career prospects. Okay, and then the last clue that I'll talk about, and then we'll wrap up our discussion for tonight, is professional development. So I talked about field work earlier. So a course where you go into an archive, typically students complete the 150-hour field work for which they receive 3 credit hours. And you're in there working in an archive in a professional setting. And that's just a great way to develop your skills, to have something that you can put on your resume. And also, it's a really great networking opportunity as well. So if you're working with your supervisor for 150 hours, that really gives them a chance to see the quality of your work, your professionalism, all those good things that can maybe encourage them to hire you in the future, which has happened. We've had students complete field work and get hired at the institutions where they carried out their field work. Or again, your supervisor might know someone who is hiring or might be able to serve as a reference for you in the future. So fieldwork is definitely a professional development opportunity that can have some really strong advantages for students when they graduate. We understand that not every student has, the time and the resources to essentially pay to volunteer in an archive for 150 hours a semester. I know that a lot of master's level students have jobs, they have families, they have other obligations. So we know that not everyone can take field work, but if students are able to pull it off, it can be a really beneficial thing for them to complete. Okay, some other examples of professional development that I'll talk about are conferences. So going to conferences and attending sessions related to particular topics. It doesn't have to be the big national conferences either. Sometimes, actually quite often, local or regional archival organizations will have conferences. So they're typically fairly close to where you live. So the cost to travel, maybe you don't even need to go to a hotel. So the overall costs are lower to go to kind of local or more regional conferences. So that's always something that kind of reduces barriers for people. And again, it's just a great way to learn about archives, learn about a variety of different topics that archivists are involved with, and meet people and network as well. Kind of similar to that are workshops. So it might be like a day or two workshop focused on a specific aspect of archiving. And again, if that's an area of archiving that you're interested in, it's a great opportunity to go and learn more about that area of archiving and also meet other people who already work in that area of archiving and again might be in the position to be a reference for you or potentially hire you in the future. So conferences and workshops can be really great ways to meet people, learn more, and do some networking as well. And they're just fun, to have a bunch of archivists kind of in the same area. It's just an exciting environment to be in. And there's usually like meals and sort of fun side activities that go on as well. So it's just a good time. Here at SOAS, we try to make sure that students are aware of professional development opportunities that are out there. So I have an email that I send out every couple of weeks during the semester saying, this scholarship is going on that provides money to go to conferences. This workshop is going on, this conference is going on. So we really try and keep students informed about professional development opportunities out there, just so that they know about them, and hopefully they're able to pursue them as much as possible. Because again, they can be really valuable. Essentially, they're investments, right? You're investing money and being in a better position to find a job in the future. So it's kind of helpful to think of professional development that way, and field work falls in that category as well. Okay, so again, if you think carefully about the courses that you take, if you think carefully about getting involved with professional engagement, And if you pursue professional development opportunities as much as you can, again, I know we all have time constraints and resource constraints. That really does help you be able to sit down at a job interview and be in a better position to get the job that you want. Employment in the archive profession can be fairly competitive. So anything that you can do to stand out and have something that separates you from other people that are also applying to the same job, that can be a really valuable asset. So again, that's where your courses and your professional engagement and your professional development can allow you to be a more attractive candidate to employers. Okay, so again, thank you so much for being here this evening. And I will go ahead and stop recording. And then if there are any questions, you can either ask me through your voice or through the chat. So if you're watching this online, thank you for watching so much. Please let me know if you have any questions. My email is in the sort of overview for this YouTube video. So I will go ahead and stop recording.